Hello and happy Friday. I'm Anson, and we are in the third week now of our Lent series that we're calling Determined, where we're seeing Jesus' actions on the last 7 days of his life here on earth. As we move through this season of Lent, we're focusing on three key areas. The first is learning, but also giving and praying. On the learning side, what we're learning is what Jesus was determined to establish in his last week here on earth. We're looking at the most important events in the most important week of the most important life that was ever lived. So there's a lot to learn. We saw on Sunday how Jesus entered in. This is the Sunday of his final week. When Jesus entered into Jerusalem on Sunday, he was determined to fulfill his ministry as king and sacrifice. Then we saw on Monday how he entered the temple and began to clear out the temple courts to make a way for people from all nations to draw near to God in the house of prayer. And then we saw Tuesday. This past Sunday, we began to see some of the activities that happened in the temple on Tuesday. And what we saw is that as Jesus came back into the temple after literally flipping the tables over on Monday, he returned to the temple on Tuesday. And the religious leaders began to question him. They began to challenge his authority to do these things that Jesus was doing. And so we see Jesus responding to their challenges, responding to their questions. And most particularly, as we saw this past Sunday, he responded with a parable that exposed the hypocrisy of the religious leaders who had always persecuted the prophets and killed the prophets, and they were rejecting Jesus as well. So in this parable, he exposed their hypocrisy and established his authority as the Son of God, the son of the vineyard owner in the parable of Mark chapter 12. So what we're going to see this Sunday is actually more of what happened on Tuesday in the temple. A lot happened in the temple on the Tuesday before Jesus' crucifixion. And this next section that we're coming to is really Jesus turning the tables on these leaders in their arguments. So he had answered all their questions, and now Jesus has some questions that he's going to ask. So Jesus takes the offense in terms of the questions that he's asking. And what we're going to see in these next sections is that Jesus zeroes in on some key questions about power. He's asking questions about what kind of power were the people seeking? And then what kind of power was he going to exercise? And it defied some of their expectations, is both bigger and different than what the people had expected. And I think we're going to see some helpful lines of application for us in our lives as well as we think about the kind of power that we seek and what we're looking for from Jesus in our faith and in our Christianity as we're followers of his. So looking forward to this next Sunday and the learning that we'll gain from the life of Jesus in the second half of the Tuesday before his crucifixion. So lots to learn. Giving. This week, Dina and I got our taxes submitted, so that's good. And so we're working right now through the giving guide to build our 12-month giving plan. So we'll be filling out our commitment card, bringing it back to church. And I would just encourage you to do the same, to take this challenge of the annual drill of building a 12-month giving plan and making a commitment to follow through. It's part of our response to what God has given us in our lives, his generosity toward us. It's also following after Jesus in his sacrifice. He gave his life for us. And when we give, it's one of the tangible ways that we respond in an act of worship for what God has done for us in the sacrifice of Jesus. So I would just encourage you to join me in working through the giving guide and over these next few weeks, bringing back your commitment card with a 12-month giving plan as an act of worship in your life. And then finally, praying. We're getting closer. I'm sort of teasing on this one, but as we get close, not teasing in that it's not really going to happen, but giving you a teaser. In a few weeks, I'll say a lot more about this prayer initiative that we're going to launch coming out of Lent for the season following Easter, where we're going to be praying together in an organized way or inviting all who would like to pray for Lake Norman, specifically for healing in Lake Norman, for connection, for purpose, to permeate through our community, and that God would work through us to bring the love of Jesus in more and different and new ways throughout our community. So I'll have more to say about that. But if you've got positive spiritual passion about seeing healing, connection, and purpose come to people all around Lake Norman, I want you to join us in this prayer initiative, and I'll share how you can do that in just a couple of weeks. So looking forward to what God is doing in us and through us Hope to see you this Sunday as we continue this journey. Until then, have a great weekend.